I'm doing some seasonal maintenance on this Ski Doo Renegade 900 Turbo, and I'm going to show you what I look at with the drive belt to see if it's good for the season, and also belt deflection and what I set it to. So the belt deflection is how much the belt deflects from the loose point between the two primary and secondary clutches. So if you imagine this stays in a straight line and you push on it until you get all the slack out of it, that's the deflection. And usually that's supposed to be around maybe 1.25 to 1.5 inches, maybe something around that. 1.5 might be getting a little loose. You could also put a straight edge on here if that helps, and then push it from there, and then you can see just how far it goes. But measuring it's not all of it. I also like to take the belt and see if I can spin it in the secondary fairly easy. And if it spins pretty easy, it's probably a little bit loose. And then also how much of the cogs on the top are sticking up past. As you can see, they're sticking up just a little bit, but I'm thinking that it could be up just a little bit more, and the belt to me seems a little bit loose. And I can turn this pretty easy by hand. So I think I will tighten it up just a hair, but first I'll take the belt off and inspect it to see if it's actually any good and if it's worth using this season or keeping as a spare. Okay, we get the belt removal tool hole at the top here. Put the tool in, and I'll start opening up the secondary until it's open enough that I can get the belt off easily. Probably around there somewhere. Pull it off of there, and I'll get it off of the primary. Alright, belt's out. So now that the belt's off, I'm going to look it over and inspect it to see if it's good for the season or not. So whenever I was taking it off, I had looked at the writing on the top of the belt just to verify that it was on the right way. These have rotational arrows, but if it happened to not have those arrows, I just look at the writing to see which direction that is. So if I'm standing beside the sled, if I can read it, that's the way I always put a belt on. So usually whenever you go to take it off, that's the way it should be. If not, I'll make a note of that to put it back on the same way it came off. But usually when I'm putting a new belt on, I should be able to read the writing from the side if it didn't have rotational arrows. So now, just looking at the condition of it overall, so you look on the outside here, I don't see any cracks there. It's okay to bend it this way a little bit, but when you go to check the inside, it's best not to bend it too much backwards like this. And I'm looking also inside here for cracks or anything chewed up, but that all looks good on this belt. Now on the sides here, I'm going to look for any shiny spots or any of the cord coming out. And to me this looks all nice, same kind of a dull color. There's also no chunks or grooves cut in it or cracks anywhere on the sides. This side looks fine too. And then another thing I like to do is I run my fingers around it on both sides like this, just feeling for any change in the width, because that's where you might feel a flat spot. And a flat spot happens when the track's frozen and somebody, tries to get it unstuck and the clutch is just sitting there spinning on the belt. You create a flat spot, and that can create some vibrations in that later on. And in some cases, I know I had a side-by-side recently that would go into limp mode, and it had one flat spot on the belt, and that's all that caused it to go into limp mode once you got going up to a good speed. So this belt here looks fine, and I'm sure it's gonna last the season if it's driven normally like it's supposed to be. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'll go ahead and put it back on the sled. So it'll go back on the same way it came off, making sure my rotational arrows are going the right direction. Slip it around the primary first, and up over the secondary. I'm going to take my belt tool right out. Now, to get this belt back up in the clutch, you can try to push it out a bit if you want. Sometimes you can get it part way, like that. And then you can just spin it, and it will come up on its own as the clutch closes down. Now, I think I got it up the whole way, back to the same place. Now what I'm going to do is tighten it up a bit. So what I'm going to do to tighten it is move the clutch faces close together. Now on these Ski Doos, it has this outer locking ring that the belt removal tool threaded into. This here spins on the jack shaft, which is threaded. So what I'm going to do to tighten it is I will move this ring out, and that will allow the clutch faces to go closer together, which will make the belt ride up and tighten it up. Here's a close-up of that adjustment ring, and that's the hole for the belt removal tool. And as you can see, it's threaded on the jack shaft, and the ring itself has a split, which is tightened up by this bolt. So this bolt pinches the ring onto the jack shaft so it can't turn. So the belt removal tool actually has the right Torx bit for that pinch bolt built into it. So go ahead and loosen that now so I can turn it. Here's the wrench that's used to turn the ring to make the adjustment, and you can see here there's a spot that it hooks onto to turn it either clockwise, or there's another spot to turn it counterclockwise. And these tools, both of them, are stored right here on the clutch cover, and there's a little picture to say how it goes back on. Now, so I just loosened that a little bit off. Now to get that to come out, I'll just spin the clutch again. See how that's tightened up? So that means they have moved together that much. So now I'll check my deflection, see if it's where I want it. That's quite a bit harder to move the belt in there, and the deflection itself still looks like it's inch and a bit. So I don't know if it'd be worth going any more. It did come up in the above just a little bit more. I might go a little bit and just see what that does. Yeah, it's quite a bit tighter on there, so I think that's as far as I will go. So I'm going to tighten this locking bolt back up. That will stop this from being able to move. Okay, so that's all right. So I'll leave it at that. And what I'll do is I'll test out the sled and I'll see that it performs okay. If it happened to be too tight, at idle, you'll hear it squealing a little bit. So if it happens to be squealing, I'll have to loosen it back off. But I'm thinking that'll be all right. Test it out and see how it goes. But that's the kind of things that I check when I'm looking at a belt, when I'm doing pre-season maintenance on a snowmobile.